Hello friends, this is Scott, and today's a video that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. It is what did I do with this in-ground trampoline pit that no longer had any use. When we bought our house 20 years ago, the trampoline was in good condition. I've had to rebuild the back just to hold the dirt back, and I had to replace the mat one time when I fell through it. But now my youngest child is in high school, and there was no need for a trampoline pit anymore. So with limited garden space and trying to live my best rural life in the city, I was trying to figure out what can I do with this in-ground trampoline pit. I thought of many things, like maybe put in a big pond, maybe put a shed or a workshop here, maybe just put planting beds here or a fire pit area. Wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I finally boiled down to the fact that my wife thought the yard was looking a little redneck with all my gardening projects, and my compost bin area was looking a little unsightly. So I decided that this would be a great place to put an in-ground compost bin and also increase my planting beds by cutting the sides in and making more surface area for more plants. So that was what I decided to tackle, and here's what I did. Usually I build my compost bins out of wood, but I had all these old cinder blocks I had throughout the yard that I didn't want to throw away, didn't want to get rid of. So I thought, hey, why don't I just build a very large, wide cinder block compost bin? So I pulled all the blocks from throughout the yard that I was using, and I started to construct the bin. So my first draft of the compost bin looked like this, and I ran out of block, so I had to go buy a few more at the store. And I still was a few short. Just from the very beginning, I had to cut some down. Then I thought, well, I want to build the sides up, but how am I going to do it? This area of my yard is not easily accessible, as I have stairs down the side of my house, and I basically have to carry 5-gallon buckets back here of materials. So I didn't want to bring in a ton of dirt, so what could I use to fill in the sides? My first thought was I have a whole bunch of small sticks on the side of my house I've been using as firewood. That's a little unsightly also, and the wife would be pretty happy if I got rid of those too. And they're breaking down. They're getting a little punky, so why not use a Hugelkutur principle where you pile wood underneath soil, and then over time it breaks down and makes really great soil. So that was my first thought, was to do that. And I thought I'd do one side on the left side of the bin, I would do that first and just stack some of my better wood on the right. Then I decided I needed to build some stairs, so I brought some big flagstone pieces in and built stairs down into the bin. Then I made many trips to Home Depot and I bought some wall block to hold up the sides so I could build up the dirt and make the planting beds. So as the walls got taller, I leveled out the wood underneath, and I needed to move some of this wood over to the other side, which I started to do. I started building the right side wall, and I got rid of my wood storage. That wasn't going to work and not look very good. So I decided to build the wall on the right and fill it also up with wood and use Hugelkutur methods, as well as the back of the bin. I did the same thing just to finish off that part of the circle. Then the next stop was to go to my local free manure guy. His name's Gary, great guy, has some horses boarded, and he lives pretty close to my neighborhood. So went over there and got a couple scoops of good horse manure. He's always willing to give me whatever I need, as long as he has it aged. This is about a year-old material, so that's what I brought home. Now, doing the Hugelkutur method, I know there's a lot of vacant air spaces between the sticks, and so this ground is going to settle. So I brought in as much as I could, manure-wise, just to try to fill it up, and then packed it down and wet it down. But as you see, it takes lots of scoops to unload a truck and fill up the bins with manure. So I spread it all around all the sides and the back of the bin. As Hugelkutur will take many years for it to break down and be fertile, I needed to make a really good mix so that I could plant things now. So I went to the chicken yard and I dug up lots of buckets of compost that was in the chicken yard. Now, over time, this dirt has been building up, and so it was good for me to dig some of it out anyway, because I was starting to hit my head on the coop because it was getting too tall in the pen. Now, I took the chicken yard waste and compost and put it in as a layer on top of all the sides and the back, and I got ready to start doing the planting of what I wanted to put in here. And I thought, you know what, I've always wanted asparagus, and I've not really had a good spot to put it. So I decided that I was going to plant asparagus around the left and the right side. I ordered 25 premium crowns of asparagus, and here's a good look at close-up of asparagus. And I laid them out on top of the chicken manure compost. And then I brought in a couple truckloads of just compost. And I topped all that off with just really good compost from a local nursery. So that's all I bought was the compost from the nursery. And it made it look really, really dark and really, really nice. But then I had to start spending more money, and I got some cedar bark. And it would have been nice to get it from the like a wood tree trimming service, but didn't have access to that right now, and I wanted to get it done. So I went and I spent quite a bit of money on bringing in bark. And since I've done that in my whole yard, I wanted to make it look uniform, make it look nice for the wife. So I went down to my nursery and got several truckloads of bark to bring home. And here's what 2 cubic yards of bark looks like in a pickup truck. And you got to put them in 5-gallon buckets to carry them into the backyard. And so I started to layer try to do 4 to 6 inches of bark, and did the whole back, and it looked really, really sharp. Pretty happy with it. I also decided to add some strawberries to the tops of the concrete blocks. So I've packed them full of soil, and I brought these transplants from other places in my yard and planted them all around the top of the compost bin, just to give a little bit of a greenery and also to add to the fertility and to use that fertility to grow some more fruit. So I was able to get a few strawberries this year. As you can see, some hanging over the bin. In a small yard, anytime you can add more produce or more plantings, it's always a good idea. And here's a look at the strawberries planted. To conclude this video, I want to show you my favorite thing about my compost bin, especially when it involves my kitchen scraps. So here I am loading up a biodegradable cardboard sack, which my bins are full of redworms and they love cardboard. And I walk it out onto my new deck that we put on a couple of years ago. And I still got the touch, it looks like here, as I give it a little bit of a boom. Perfect. Thanks for watching.